Hi, everyone. Today's micro learning is on how to build an iconic brand and the cult business plan with Nikhil Paul. I'm Lan Fan, CEO of Community of Seven, and today we're going to be talking about how to build an iconic brand and the secret sauce that makes them unforgettable. So whether you're working for a brand or starting your own company or just building your personal brand, this is the talk for you. We're thrilled to have our incredible guest, Nikhil Paul, with us today. He is not just a business strategy expert, he's a master at turning complex concepts into actionable insights that we can all understand and apply in our daily lives. So think of him as a Sherlock Holmes of business strategy. He's going to unveil the mysteries behind iconic brands like Ben & Jerry's, CrossFit, and Patagonia. So grab your favorite snack, get comfortable, and let's get ready to uncover the secrets of building a cult business plan. And by the end of this session, you'll have a trove of strategies to help your business achieve cult status as well. Hey, Nikhil.
Hi, Lan. Hi, everybody.
So Nikhil is the founder of We Are Human. He's a leadership coach who spent a decade building teams and solving culture challenges for companies like Microsoft, Airbnb, Salesforce. He's a member of the HubSpot Fellows faculty. Ooh. He previously served as Chief Technology Officer at Presenter and was a founder and CEO of InfoShare, an employee engagement SaaS startup. Today, he's on a mission to help small business leadership teams scale by helping them craft operation missions that are clear and inspiring, facilitating honest discussion, creating actionable game plans, implementing systems to help leaders delegate. He has a dream to help these businesses become dominant forces for driving good in the workforce. Welcome, Nikhil.
Hey, thank you for having me.
You know what I love about your career trajectory? There's so many executive coaches that have never been executives.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
I love the fact that you bring that experience, having been a chief technology officer, having a founder when you advise these companies.
yeah.
So tell me, what is a small business growth coach? What does that mean? And some of the businesses that you coach aren't that small.
Yeah, that's a great point. So thank you first of all for having me again. The buzzer entrance, I'm going to make sure my wife now has that every time I enter the room. I'm going to be like, send the buzzer in. But yeah, I am a small business growth coach. Hi, everyone. And, I've been building businesses and helping other people build businesses for a little more than a decade, right? And I've worked with all sorts of companies, big companies, small companies, and whatnot. And I think over the past few years, I've been working with even smaller brands, small businesses from 20 to 200 employees, and I help them scale because a big part of what I love doing is helping CEOs, their leadership teams, their companies, their managers, their frontline employees feel motivated and inspired to hit their moonshot goals, right? Because one, it's more impactful. If the company is sustainable and it's a happier workplace, it's a win for everybody. But more than that, I also believe that people collaborate best and grow the most when there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, right? So like our neural circuitry is wired for reward-seeking behavior because real change is hard. We all know this. We all have things in our lives that we want to change and all these things that we want to do and get to. But most often we don't because it takes a lot of effort, right? It takes a lot of effort to change our mindset, to change our behaviors, to change our processes, whether that's in our teams, our organizations, or even just in our lives. For me, what I found to be the most compelling way to get people to make that big journey, to cross the desert in 40 days, is you got to give them something exciting to work towards, right? While at the same time saying that, hey, if we don't do this, the world is going to be flooded and we need to build our ark. So it's that combination of like existential urgency and exciting vision coupled with easy few steps that I've found really bring the light in people's eyes and make them feel inspired and come together. So that's why I call myself a small business growth coach. The outcome being we can scale this company to great heights if we work on ourselves, work on our culture, work on our processes. We can have an amazing future if we work together to get there.
I love that. And so You talk a lot about having a kind cult empire blueprint. What is this? It sounds magical.
Yeah, kind cult. I was thinking of a way to articulate this. Like I said, again, I've been seeing and working with so many businesses over the years, and I had my own startups in the beginning, and I've worked with other tech entrepreneurs and just all sorts of entrepreneurs. And over that period of time, over these past 15 years, I've been really studying the game, right? And I'm asking the question, why is it that some few small brands are able to rise to the top in a very competitive landscape when so many others are just stagnant or they die by the wayside? Some businesses that I've worked with years later, they're not around, right? And I've noticed this over and over again. And so I'm very passionate about the topic. So I've studied some of the best companies out there, and I'm reading things from people like the greats, like Jim Collins, Clayton Christensen, Vern Harnish. And once I put together the research and the insights with my own experiences of running businesses and helping leaders run their businesses, I've noticed that the best companies have principles and systems that I believe they use over and over again to get to the very top. And so what the Kind Cult Empire Blueprint is really a framework where I believe like a step-by-step methodology to help my clients rise above the ruckus and great heights without losing their soul, without losing the kind of the commitment, the passion, the kindness that brought people together to work in the first place. And so that's what it is, a step-by-step framework to rise.
And I think that's so important because I see a lot of companies and people too lose their way.
Yeah.
I see this a lot with the coaching industry as well, where someone gets a little bit of fame because they have a book or a podcast that does really well, and then they try to sell like 10,000. Nothing wrong with selling $5,000, $10,000 courses, but they become less successful at what they're doing or building a business, the coaching part,
Yeah,
and more so for coaching coaches how to
that's right.
coach.
That's right.
And then it becomes this thing where you're just constantly growing. And because I think the growth is good. We're in a capitalistic
Yeah.
society. But then sometimes when you just solely focus on growth
Yeah.
to the detriment of what your values are,
Yeah.
that's when you start seeing companies lose sight of who
That's
they
right.
are and their business. And then the
That's
growth
exactly right.
ends, right?
That's
Because
right.
they're just chasing profit margins.
That's right.
So why is it important? Why should the folks on this call care? Why do we need to be a cult brand?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So first off, I just want to say when I say cult, I'm using that a little tongue in cheek, right? I'm not trying to encourage the manipulative, harmful aspects of real life cults. What I'm really leaning on is the tight-knit community aspect of it. And it's for a very good reason, because most small businesses don't grow. They just don't, right? If you look at some of the statistics, it's 0.4% of all small businesses grow to 10 million in revenue, meaning less than 1 in 200. Or if you're trying to go even higher, it's like 1 in 1,600 of them hit 50 million in revenue. And look, there are a couple of reasons for this, but one of the biggest reasons that I believe entrepreneurs, whether you're your own coach or your own small business or your mom and pop shop, whatever it is that a lot of us spend way too much time, energy, and effort trying to please everyone we serve. And to me, that's a fallacy. That's a wrong thing. The singer, Nina Simone, has this great quote. She says, "You use up everything you've got trying to give everybody what they want." So if all you're doing is firing on all cylinders and trying to make everybody happy, your customers, your employees, everyone, what ends up happening is that your brand becomes, even after all that effort, just becomes a little unremarkable. And worse, you're burnt out. So now you're just like, I can't do this. Small business is so much. It's so hard. And the worst problem, and this is actually probably the worst problem, is that after all the backbreaking work you do to get these customers and do such a good job, is that the moment they find a better deal, they leave. And that's so disheartening. That's like a gut punch, right? So how do we prevent the hemorrhaging of customers? How do we get out of this kind of like the small, only a small group of customer clients are able to get to the top? And the way to do that is to, first of all, say, hey, look, we're never going to build our empires by fighting for scraps and clawing for inches. That's not how this game works. If we're going to be competing with all our competitors, other coaches, other small businesses, other pizza shops down the road on price or benefits or features or this kind of this arms race, we'll never get to the top. We're just clawing each other. Real growth only happens when we are the undisputed kings and queens of our realm, right? And for that, we need to find our most loyal subjects. Hence why I say we need to find our cult customers. Because in any industry, here's the thing, in any place, you give me any industry, whether that's ice cream industry or high-end software, 5 to 10% of our industry is our true customers. 5 to 10% of our customers drive 80 to 90% of our profits. Okay, and this is a concept in business language where it's called profit pools. All right, where if we take out a list of our customers, and I want all of you to do it, like the people in the call, watching from wherever, take out a list of all the customers you've worked with and just comb through it. What you'll start to find is that there's a small elite group of people that are the most fanatical about what we do, right? And they're the most ecstatic about our products and our experiences, and they love us no matter what. We can do no wrong. And if you really go through that list, you'll find these group of people. And it's exactly this small group of people that we want to tap into, because these people will stick around through the thick and thin. Whether your prices go up, whether you make a big mistake, or whether there's a new competitor on the block and you're not the cool new kid on the block, right? Through all of that, these people are going to stick with us because it's more than logic and price for them. For them, it's a deep, strong emotional connection they have with who we are and what we stand for. And once we do right by them, if we constantly do right by them based on this relationship, what we promise them, once we have that type of base fueling us, then the sky is the limit. We can soar to the top and do whatever we want. So that's why it's very important to know and identify our cult customers.
I love that. And we have different types of folks who are on the call. Some are business owners, but we have some who are maybe Fortune 100, Fortune 500 company.
Sure.
How do we define and identify who our cult customers are, or those profiles? Like, because there's a pool of people that might be our customers. How do we find out who the 5 to 10%? Because what you said also reminds me of a common saying, which is, and I'm saying it so it rhymes, our riches are in the niches. It's
there you
niche
go.
too. But
Right.
it's that same thing where we have to drill down, because I know I've struggled with that being a business owner myself,
Yes.
which is that my heart, I want to go broad, right? But then by going broad, you serve no one.
That's
and
right.
your product becomes nebulous. And when I was first launching Community of Seven, it was very broad. It was like this membership community.
Sure.
And then what I realized was really my passion was actually training and development. So my focus now is actually learning and development professionals, CMOs, C-suite executive founders who want training and development.
That's
they're in its mindset. So part of that was like hyper focusing, because when it was so broad, I was like, who do I reach out to? That's like the universe.
That's right.
So how do you identify who your target demo is, your cult following?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the first part to that is, so there's technically 5 things I tell with every business that I work with. These are the 5 questions I go through them with them. And it basically starts from the inside out. Believe it or not, we don't just go out there and start looking at the customer list. You start with yourself, because cult followings are based on very personal relationships. If you don't know who you are and what motivates you first and foremost, then you're never going to be able to identify the type of people that you're trying to look for, because they're all different flavors and types and slices of human beings on this planet. There is a group, there's a cult community for every single human being out there. And the best way to think about it is like, look for, and again, this is used in the most delightful, most meaningful kind way, which is look for the weirdos like yourself. And I use that in a way to say that we are all in some way feel like outsiders in some place, right? We've all felt like that. You want to look for the others who feel like outsiders in the exact same way you do. So here are the 5 top questions I ask when I work with each business or whoever I'm talking to. Is first I say, what do we love doing? What do you all love doing? What is the core work that lights you up? Because you were just talking about your own thing. There's so many different things you can do with the companies you work with, but what do you love doing? What's that core nugget of work that you love doing the most, right? That whether you didn't get paid for that job or not, you're deeply passionate about that work and you'll do it even in the hardest of times. So that's the first question we try to drill on. What is the core fundamental work you love doing? Second is, what can we be the best in the world at? This is the other very important critical step that every brand needs to think about, is that what are our 100x strengths? What are the 2 to 3 things where we truly have an unfair advantage over everyone else in our space, right? And we have the potential to be the best in the world at. Number 3, what is our profit engine? And Jim Collins talks about this a lot, which is what are the top 1 to 3 most profitable products or services we can offer or are offering that generates the most cash for us? And these 3 questions are fundamentally the first group of questions I want each of us to wrestle with. What do people value the most in what we do? What do I love doing? And then the 4th question is, what what do we want to save the world from? Now, this part again sounds a little bit heady and a little bit like out there, a little too conceptual, but it's really important because again, cult customers are based on very core values and a very authentic relationship. So what cause or problem in the world are we the most concerned about and really want to solve? You got to figure that out as well. It's those core values that bring us together. Finally, who are our cult customers? So who are the people? Okay, here are the three things you want to look for and identifying the cult customers. Once you've done all this internal work, one, who pays the most? Who does not argue with you every single time you make a proposal to them or you sell them something or your prices go up? They're like, yeah, sure, no problem. They don't even think twice about it. That's a good indicator. Number two, who has the most patience with us? We've all made mistakes in the delivery of our work, our product, or our service, right? They're always going to happen. That's just the nature of how life and business happen. Who has the most amount of patience? Oh, yeah, no worries. Don't worry about it. It's okay. I will wait. It's okay. They're always happy, no matter what, even if you mess up and fumble, right? That's another big sign. Here's the last big question you can ask yourself. If your business, and this is a very honest question. To be honest, this is a very private, personal question that maybe some of us don't even want to tell out loud because maybe we don't like the answer. But that's a good thing because it should give us insight and data into this business where we're building or we're working with. Is if today our business were to shut down right here, right now, if it were to completely stop, which of your customers would cry? Right? And when I say cry, I'm being a little bit exaggerated, but you get the point. Who's going to miss us deeply and dearly and cannot believe and be in an utter state of shock if our business were to shut down because they rely on us so much? Those five things is what I call the dragon heart of the business. That's the core from which emanates all the light and energy that your business is pushing through. You want to put that together, calcify it, and make it a very strong center. But that's how I would help identify the core cult customers in our business.
I love that. And it's so powerful. It reminds me of the whole Japanese ikigai, like
yes,
how individuals find their reason for being. Because what I love about your dragonflies, but also the whole ikigai concept, for those of you who are unfamiliar, ikigai is your reason for being, and it's a Japanese concept of finding your purpose. And there's four concentric circles. One is, you love doing.
Right.
One is, are you good at it?
That's right.
Right? Because you could love something, but if you're not good at it, you're not going to get paid for it. The third concentric circle is what you can get paid or compensated for.
That's right.
The fourth quadrant is, does the world need it?
That's right.
Right. And I think when you look at things from those kind of circles, because I see a lot of entrepreneurs and businesses, and they have such altruistic, I want to change the world. But you also have to pay your mortgage. You also have to send your son to school. So it's good to lead with your heart.
That's right.
But as a business, you also need the business fundamentals of having revenue come in, paying your staff, growing a business, marketing, all this other stuff. And what I love about these four dragonfires is that you're really looking at your customer in that kind of aspect as well, right? The people who are passionate about, but also like understanding that also at the end of the day, as a business, it's about growth and it's about revenue streams.
That's right.
So now that we know the five dragonflies, what are the defining traits of a cult business? How do we become a cult business?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So cult business basically is answering three fundamental human needs. Okay. And I'll go through them one by one. First one, enlist to fight the power. Every true cult business is really just fighting the Goliath of its time, right? They're taking on some great big enemy out there and they're challenging the status quo and giving people the first thing we all want in our lives, which is what? We want a purpose. We want to have an inspirational purpose. Give me something to get out of bed for, right? We need to feel like we're the good guys in our lives. A great example of this is Apple. So Apple in the 80s and 90s, they created an enemy out of the big bad Microsoft. Right? So all of their marketing back then was focused on how to empower the creative rebels to take on the corporate computer overlords. It was a great positioning of David versus Goliath. So that's the first thing you want to look for. Who are the big Goliaths in your business or your landscape that you would like to take on, that you're in direct opposition to? People love that. They love the underdogs and they love kind of fighting the Goliaths. So that's number one. Number two, welcome you as one of us. Welcome you as one of us. That is the tribe mentality. The best cults feel like a family because what do we all want? We all want to feel wanted. We all want to feel included and belonging, right? That's a very fundamental core human need. a phenomenal example for this trait is Harley Davidson. Everyone knows a Harley Davidson. Whenever you think of Harley Davidson, what do you think of? You think of a group of people riding together, right? So it's built into the brand. You don't just ride a Harley alone. You ride it with your brothers and sisters, right? And that's their community. So that's number two. You got to have a very strong family belonging feeling. Number three, embrace and encourage being weird. This is very critical. Again, I'm using weird I'm reclaiming the word weirdo, right? Because we're all weirdos in some aspect of our life. We're all weird or strange or outsiders in some aspect of life, and we all feel like that, right? The best cults imbue the quote unquote weirdos with a lot of confidence and self-esteem. And what they're basically doing is they're using social identity theory, which says that a person's self-image is directly defined by the group that they're part of. And one of the best examples of this is CrossFit. Okay. CrossFit now is ubiquitous. Everyone knows where it is and it's all over the place and people have seen it. But honestly, CrossFit in the beginning was truly for the weirdos in the gym culture. They were the hardcore fitness freaks, right? The people who want to be in the best shape of their life. These are the people who love to be in pain when they're working out. Okay. Unless they're dying of exhaustion and gasping for breath, they don't think it's a worthwhile workout. Now, imagine if that person comes to our Zumba dance class. If you'll be like, brother, sister, let's relax a little bit. This is an LA Fitness, not the Marines. Let's take it down a bit, right? But at CrossFit, they're at home, right? The harder they go all out, the more they're cheered on and celebrated by their teammates. In fact, the workout is their stamp of like specialness. Because they're so hard. The workouts are so hard. The moment a newcomer comes in and they finish their first CrossFit workout, they feel a great sense of accomplishment and pride, right? And so they're embraced for being different than other fitness enthusiasts. So they have to, but they also have to prove that they're different. So they go deeper into it and they get, by going through this crucible, this workout, they're certifying and celebrating their weirdness. Do you see what I'm saying? And so those are the three fundamental things. We need enlist people to fight the power, welcome you as one of us, and encourage and embrace being weird. And if you do all these three things, you do the three things that we all want as human beings. We want purpose, we want belonging, and we want individuality. So that's how you do it.
I love that. And so give me advice. How do I make Community of Seven a cult business, or the folks who are business owners, small business owners? How do we create our own cult business?
Yeah. So it goes down to those five fundamental things I was talking about. So if I were to sit with you and I was going to ask you, okay, Len, what do you love doing? So let's do a quick interactive part right here. Okay.
I'm coming back. Okay.
Yeah. So let's just go with it. If I were to ask you, Len, what is the one thing, if you knew that you weren't going to get paid, you knew that it was going to be a long day work, what would you love doing, even if all of those other things were not there?
I totally know the answer to that.
Yeah,
and I used to always ask myself, how can I get paid for helping people? But I'm doing it now.
So you could help people in so many different ways. Is there something specific? Because you can help people by being a doctor at work. You can help people by serving them food. I'm going to push you deeper. And this is why we do this, because you got to go deeper. The devil is in the details.
Yes. So I think what I'm good at is making complex things simple.
Yes.
So for me, training and development, I got my master's in teaching and curriculum. I'm really good at motivating and influencing people, like teaching people how to go from point A to point B.
No, I love that. Okay. So right there, and because I saw you speak as well, and we're gonna use this exercise as like an example. Obviously, this is much deeper conversation, but I know for a fact that motivating people, I could see the light in your eyes. It was like on stage, you were so compelling, right? And so good. If you did that for a certain group of people, who do you think have you seen that resonates the most with that? Like, where do you get the most excited, the most feedback when you go out there and give a talk? Because you've talked to a lot of different places. Like you just said, you were in Saudi Arabia at different conferences. Where have you noticed in all those clients, places where people resonate the most?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of soul searching. So a lot of the questions you're asking, I've been in the past 2 or 3 years trying to uncover. And I realized that I'm helping the person I was a few years ago, right?
Wow.
So for me, I'm an empath. I'm a giver. I'm an introvert. Really empowering people in the workforce who have been behind the scenes, who have
Mhm.
done the work but might not have gotten the recognition,
Yep.
might have done the presentation PowerPoint deck but didn't get to
Yep.
present it. And I'm
Yep.
trying to really elevate servant leaders because I believe that when you elevate servant leaders, the cultures of companies change.
Hmm.
And so for me, the person I'm really targeting are the people who are trying to struggle with that movement from being behind the scenes,
That's right.
like taking up more space and more room in the world.
That's right. I love that. So immediately, I think not just for me, but for everyone listening, I can see this person in my head, right? It's the behind the scenes do-gooders, the quieter, empathetic. They're the connectors behind the scenes. That's basically helping the enterprise move forward. They're not the ones loud
No, yeah.
and out there. They're behind the scenes. They're gentle. They're social. They're very concerned about the group
Yeah.
and the people.
Like I'm not concerned with the sociopath and the
Hmm.
toxic leaders because
Right.
my message is not for them,
That's right.
right? Even though they might be inspired by some of my message, I'm not talking to them. I'm
That's right.
talking to the introverts, the givers of the world. But that's
That's
just
right.
me personally. Not that
That's
my
right.
content might not resonate for them, but like I am talking to me
Yep.
going growing up like climbing the corporate ladder and just feeling alone in the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. I love that. So I have a really good sense of what you love doing and who you're trying to serve. Let me ask you this then. What is their biggest pain point? If you were to say the number one thing that is so painful to this group of people, what do you think that would be?
I think really the biggest thing, and I love this because I feel like I'm having like a person one-on-one coaching with a subject matter expert. So awesome, free coaching.
There you go.
But I think their biggest pain is that, and I will speak for myself
Sure.
because I'm that person. You get so beaten down by world,
Yeah.
corporate world, that you stop betting on yourself. You stop
Hmm.
believing in yourself and you
Hmm.
start listening to the naysayers and all of this other
Hmm.
stuff. So it's really about finding your inner voice and your inner power. But it's been beaten down so long that sometimes it's hard to hear. And
Yeah.
you start listening to your boss. You
Yeah.
start listening to society. You
Yeah.
start scrolling Instagram and saying, I'm never going to be pretty enough, smart
Yeah.
enough, more powerful enough.
Yeah.
And so you start devaluing your worth.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is finding
Yeah.
that voice that's deep inside of you, but it's been like suppressed for so long.
That's right. I love that. Devaluing your own worth. So that self-esteem is the core critical thing, right? So and again, I'm using this is a deeper conversation, but I'm using it as an example because you can go so many different ways. You could go further. I want to help them identify the networks, or I want them to meet other people like them, or I want them to have a career. There are different ways to go with. But if I were to really just use this as an example, a very brisk example, and plant there, say, I want to give them their self-esteem. Because I know everything, there are a lot of different ways to build on it, but self-esteem and confidence and self-worth is where I live. Then the products and services that I offer are directly in that sweet spot.
Yeah.
And the temptation, and again, I'm being very crude in my example about this, but the temptation is to do everything around that area.
Yeah.
But the best success is built by 99% saying no to those things. So if a person comes to you who's not an empath introvert that you see in your head, and they're asking for you, hypothetically, can you help me get into my career? According to just what our brief interaction, I would say no, right? Because that's not the sweet genius spot. That's not your genius spot. Your genius spot is in that narrow space. Does that make sense? I'm using it to make a point.
It does. And can I add a story to
Absolutely.
that too? So I spent the past 2 decades of my career as a serial entrepreneur building kind of startups within
Yeah.
companies.
Yeah.
And my focus was really building membership communities. So when I first launched Community of Seven, for those who've been following my career since the very beginning of launching Community of Seven, I started off with what? A membership community, a mastermind with executives, CEOs, founders, etc.,
I
where
love
we
that.
went through this 1 year process. And it was very fulfilling. It was successful. But I had a realization, and this was bringing most of my revenue initially.
That's right.
I had a realization that I wasn't passionate
Yep.
about making successful people more
Yep.
successful.
Yep.
And so that's when I shifted gears. And then I went to a space that I was not comfortable with, which was public speaking, doing keynotes, doing workshops. Once again, I was more of the behind the scenes person,
Yep.
putting myself
Yep.
in front, posting every
hmm
day on LinkedIn, writing a book,
hmm
doing all these things wasn't something that was naturally, because I'm not a look at me, rah, rah
Sure.
kind of
Sure.
person,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
But I realized that what really brought me passion when we met because I did a keynote at the Troop
That's right.
HR conference with Mita, is when I speak and I look at the audience, I
hmm
see that I got it. When you see
Yep.
people crying, but in a
That's
good way,
right.
right?
That's
Crying,
right.
but then
That's right.
happy and crying, and then you
That's
see
right.
that they've got that for me,
That's right.
that
That's your
lights my
100x strength.
fire,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah.
That's
So
right.
it's like I had to, and I love that you say that sometimes you have to say no.
Yes.
Because in the beginning, when I first started Community 7, I leaned on my skill set of the past, which was marketing and advertising. I
Right.
did a lot of consulting
Right.
work, and that kind of kept me afloat. And I
Sure.
think as small business owners, you also have to sometimes, in the beginning,
Yep.
do things that are not 100% aligned because you need
Yep.
to pay the light bills and
Yep.
food on your table.
That's right.
So I was doing consulting, I was doing all this strategy work, but then I was like, this doesn't light my fire. And
Mm.
so when I figured out that what I really loved doing was training and development, then I just went all in. Then the books came, and then the keynote
That's right.
speaking came, all that good stuff. So I love the fact that you also identified that saying no to the things that aren't aligned is also important.
That's right. And it's a journey because when we start a business, we think we're good at something. Exactly like you said, you come in with all the right intentions because you want to help and serve people. But it's a process. As we go through life, we have to pay attention to what is bringing me joy. What am I really good at? The fact that when I hear you say things like, I had the audience crying and laughing, I saw that. I was in the audience with you. I was in the audience as you were speaking.
Yeah.
And to me, that if from your perspective, that's exactly right. If I have that intense an emotion, if I'm able to elicit that intense an emotion with any product or service I do, you immediately there should be like sirens go, this is interesting. Why is it out of everything I do, this is the one that affects people the most? And that's what the cult business, like you're going deeper into that emotional, authentic, intense relationship. Intensity is the key here. That's
Yeah.
the biggest data point. Yeah. So I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. Earlier you mentioned whole 5 dragon fires and,
Yep.
and how to discover it. Why is this simple magic promise to our cult customers so important? Why is it important?
Yeah, no, 100%. So here's the thing. Can I give you a story about really this is one of my favorite stories, Patagonia. Okay. So I think that this story will really help you understand why it's very important because Patagonia is very similar to the company was founded from the founder, Yvon Chouinard, who loved hiking, who loved outdoor stuff, surfing, skiing, lifelong climbers, all of that, right? He literally, like you were saying, in the beginning, basically made tools like pittons, crampons, like things that you need to like hike and climb. He used to make that himself. And he used to sell that to other hikers and climbers as a way to pay for his lifestyle. So the company was literally born from his passion, right? And so all the people he brought into the company in the early days were all outdoor enthusiasts. So word starts to spread, and a lot of hikers and climbers come in. But he noticed a certain type of customer who really loved their stuff, which was what he called, again, affectionately, he called them dirtbag customers, right? They wanted their products. And what he meant by that is that these are hardcore outdoors people who don't have a lot of money, right? And he just starts selling to them. He just starts making really good climbing hardware, and they end up conquering 75% of the climbing hardware market. Now, this is why it's important. Even though they conquered 75% of the climbing hardware market, they were the number one brand. They had very little profits. This is why it is so important that we talk about this idea of cult brand. You can corner the market, you can be number one and whatever, but the fundamentals of your business might not match up to the externals, right? Patagonia was in that space. It was actually called another company at that time, but they were in that exact same space. They were struggling to grow. But one day, like you were talking about, you noticing things that people light up, he noticed something that lit him up. So one day he comes back from a trip, right? A climbing trip, and he told his team, hey, I really love this rugby shirt that I wore on the trip. And these guys, you're not going to believe the collar on this shirt. It's so amazing. It's so thick and tough and firm. I literally put my entire climbing rope around my neck while I was climbing up, and I got no burn marks. This is amazing. We got to start selling this. And so the team was like, all right, it's a little different than the climbing equipment, but let's do it. Let's sell it. So they sold it. Instant bestseller. It catapulted them. But more importantly, after a couple of months of selling it and they looked at the books, the shirt had bigger margins. That rugby shirt had the largest profit margins they had ever seen of anything else they had ever sold. That's when a light bulb went off in their heads. They were like, maybe instead of selling crampons and pick-ons and all these other things that people pick, climbing picks and all those things, what if we just sold active clotheswear? That's where Patagonia was born. They made a concerted, decisive effort where they changed the strategy completely. They started going to outdoor clothes, but they have no idea how to make outdoor clothes. Again, back to their Dragonheart 5 parts, right? What were they good at? They were good at blacksmithing, which is they made the iron picks and the metal pikes in a hot furnace. So they're like, all right, let's try to, what if we try to bring the same sensibility into making clothes? So guess what their clothes were? Their clothes were not comfortable. Their clothes were not fashionable, but you know what they were? They were functional, right? They ended up making tough, simple, and very durable outdoor clothes, and their dirtbag customers loved it. The company took off from there, and that's really what drove the whole thing. And of course, the mission and the heartbeat of that company is that the planet is their only stakeholder. And so my point and why is this important is because it gives you optionality. You have to have options. You need to be able to have breathing room to try things and go. But if you don't have a great loyal customer base and you don't have enough cash and margins, you're not going to be able to try and experiment and build something even more great, right? So that's the first part. You have to be able to focus on your cult customers so that you have more options.
Love, that's really powerful, like a powerful insight. You work with a lot of brands and companies. Can you share some real life examples of companies that you've worked with that have successfully implemented the cult business plan approach and saw significant growth results?
Yeah, so there was this one marketing firm that I worked with where they really just focused on, okay, what is the work that lights us up, right? That drives the most joy to what we do. And we just, the same process we talked about, the 5 dragon fires, right? What are the things at the core of a dragon heart? And we basically just had them unpack and discover and whatnot. And it was great because immediately you could tell the entire small business, like it was clarity, like a light bulb went off. And I think the most important thing they got from that was not just knowing who to say yes to, but it was more importantly who to say no to and what to say no to. Like, again, come back to this thing. 99% of success is just learning to say no. That's it. It's learning to say no and learning to disappoint people who are not within our space. And the moment they did that, they really, I forget the exact numbers, but they had one of the most phenomenal, profitable years. And the CEO emailed me later on saying, hey, because of you, that really helped explode our business. But to me, the key part was watching the light. Like immediately everyone was like, oh, I get it. Everyone in that team, that business, the moment we said, this is who we're doing, this is what we love doing, and this is what's going to get us to the next stage, it was like all the dominoes aligned up. And then everyone knew exactly. And so what it did was everyone had a decision-making gravity. You didn't need to micromanage anyone because they got it. They knew who they were doing it and what they were doing it for. And to me, that's the power of this framework. It basically gives people ownership and the clarity to take it on themselves.
I love that. So, what's the one thing you want the folks on this call to take away from this?
That's a great question. I love business and competition, and I love this kind of idea of strategy and all of that. But I think it's even more important than that, all right? We all want to be profitable and wealthy and successful and get all the accolades. But I think there's a deeper, and this is maybe part of my culture and all of that. I think there's a deeper problem. We're not just in a vacuum. I think in a lot of ways, if I'm not being too hyperbolic, people are railing against capitalism. Capitalism is like everyone, you just see it in the news. People are, and rightfully so, there's a lot of inherent challenges. I think it's very important that each of you, whatever work you do, it's authentic to your core values and you fight for it. The problem, and I think, Landy, we're talking about this, is that when we start trying to help too many other people and we start doing a little bit of this and that, what ends up happening is we overextend ourselves. And when we overextend ourselves, we get burnt out. And then the only thing that's motivating us is the money. And if it's only money that's motivating us, it's very easy to get addicted to growth. We all want to see the dings, like the likes and the notifications on our Facebook, right? It's a part of our dopamine systems. But it's very important that we not get carried away with it too much. That's just one part of it. The other part has to be that what we're doing, we're genuinely passionate about. Because I honestly, genuinely believe that if you love what you do and you care about the people you're serving, together, that is a movement of people who can redeem capitalism, who can bring back the business to people who what it does at its best. So that's it. That's my big
I love
speech
that.
on the Sermon on the Mount.
I also think of Unilever and their support of the Crown Act, which
Mhm.
supports women with like diverse types of
Mm.
hair, like curly hair,
Mm.
and how it aligns with their product,
Mhm.
right? That is so powerful. And last but not least, how can we find you, websites, etc.? Like if we're interested in someone on here is interested in booking you or using you as a consultant, how do we find you?
Yeah, for sure. You can find me on LinkedIn, Nikhil Paul. I post about this kind of things a lot. And also my website, wearehuman.co. You can email me at nikhil@wearehuman.co.
Thanks. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.